Okay, hey guys, thank you for tuning in. Welcome back to my regular Wednesday night live stream. I'm extremely pleased to have a returning guest, someone who has done a lot more than most Australian politicians in terms of talking about the government overreach, lockdowns, C-19, masks, you name it. He's definitely been one of the forefront runners in that particular game. Now, before we begin, I'm going to ensure that I maintain my tradition and read a Bible verse before we go completely live. And then I will bring on the guest in question. Just let me go to the verse that I've organized. Oh, also, hello everyone on Twitch. Hello everyone on DLive, and hello everyone on YouTube. So this is from the book of Corinthians, 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5. I happen to, for some reason, be reading from the New International Version. I don't normally do that. It's normally King James for me. Examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. Test yourselves. Do you not realize that Christ Jesus is in you? Unless, of course, you fail the test. Now, yesterday, I had a breakdown moment. I started crying. I was really, really sad because you can't help, I live as freely as I choose to. I live as freely as I'm able to. But then sometimes you just get down. So remember, it's not all about us. We need to put our faith in something bigger. And yes, the Australian people are not particularly doers, but everything is in God's hands. So anyway, without further ado, the very fantastic George Christensen. Hello.
Oh, well, thank you for saying I'm fantastic. That's really great to hear. And it's good to be back.
Yes, you were on my show last year when I was living with Dean McRae, and now you're here again. Yeah. G'day, mate. I do not talk like that. I'm not a g'day type of an Aussie. I'm a first generation Aussie, so g'day is unnatural to me. Are you a full-blooded Aussie? Sorry, it's not. I feel like you look like you have Asian in you. I don't know.
Oh no, that's what my mum's my grandmother, my mum's mother used to taunt my dad with to say that because it's because when I smile, the effect is on my eyes, which is not a racist thing. My wife's Asian, so when my daughter's Asian, half Asian, but I'm not Asian.
You gravitate towards them though.
Well, yeah, basically. So I'm my dad is I think 5th generation Australian.
Pretty damn Aussie.
His mother's side, but my mother was an immigrant from Scotland.
Oh, okay. So white and white makes white. I'm just joking.
Like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much my ancestry is
Scottish,
English white, Scottish white, Irish white, Danish white. What else? Oh, there is a bit of Russian Jew.
Ooh, there you go. Do you have any connections to the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds so we can put a stop to what's happening around the world?
No, I have got no connection whatsoever. The only reason I know that is the family history, and this is a lot. The guy was a fellow by the name of Sergei Hasiah Turnoff, and my father's father's mother, who I remember from when I was a kid, her maiden name was Turnoff as well. So
that's cool.
But he I think he was a jeweler, right? Anyway, he was locked up in the Tower of London for forgery. So
wow, okay. There you go.
Enough about my family history.
Yeah, no, you know what? I love those sorts of shows. I love Who Do You Think You Are, where they look into that kind of stuff. It's just something that I like, and I just didn't want to start off talking immediately about government overreach, C-19. But anyway, okay, let's get into
it. That should be the question for the country at the moment. Who do you think you are? What do you think you've become?
Well, exactly. Don't you think our Western our Western culture, our Western heritage, our Western identity has disintegrated into madness. Boys have periods. Boys can have babies. Oh, this is the perfect time to control the people because they think this crap that we've indoctrinated them with. So let's do it. And now everyone's complying. I feel like punching people all the time when I hear them saying, well, if people stop protesting and, well, if people did this and if people did that, like they're literally a mouthpiece for the TV.
It's gaslighting and it's worked. Well, it's worked with some parts of the population. You know, it's the fault of those people over there. Well, no, it's not the fault of those people. Actually, you want to know whose fault it was originally? It was a fellow called Xi Jinping who oversaw a country that run experimental virus research inside a lab in Wuhan, and it got out of that lab. And we don't know to this day whether it got out accidentally or whether it got out deliberately. But you know, that's the start of it. But you know, really, the protesters out on the streets and the people complaining on Facebook and through whatever medium they can complain, they're not the ones that have put us into lockdown.
No.
They're not the ones that have caused all of what comes from lockdown. Now, I just want to segue a bit. You started off with a Bible verse.
Yes.
And you spoke then straight after that about people saying, oh, if only they would stop doing this. Well, there's a tendency, sadly, and I saw this only yesterday, a tendency amongst some Christians, probably, I'm not sure if it would be a majority, but some Christians anyway, to say something to the effect of, following the secular crowd, right? Oh, you people that always talk about your personal freedoms, you know, that's really selfish, and that's got absolutely nothing to do with the gospel. That's got nothing to do with Jesus, and we're all about loving one another and love your neighbor as yourself. And how is it loving your neighbor as yourself if you're putting your selfish personal freedom ahead of saving people from this virus?
Amen.
And nothing more makes my blood boil, because it's like, hey, what? You know, my selfish personal freedom? No. Let me tell you, anyone who goes out on the streets is arrested. They could be tackled by police, fined. People who those are the people who go out to protest. The people who get a head of steam because of what they're saying on social media or whatever, they can get arrested for incitement. That happened today to someone. I'll talk about that later.
Monica.
Yes, it did. And I know a little bit of info from that that I can talk about in a while.
Yes, please.
People get smashed by the media. They get derided by other people. They get called crazies. They get called nutters. I mean, this is the traits of really selfish people who want all of this glory. I mean, glory isn't getting arrested. Glory isn't getting
absolutely not
demonized in the press and online and being piled on. So why are these people doing it then? It's certainly not for what it's for is that they understand when collective freedoms, it's not just for you, me, but for everyone, including those who are detractors against the pro-freedom cause, and they are out there fighting for those freedoms, fighting for everyone's freedoms. And look, I've been a politician for over a decade now.
Yeah.
Before that, I was in local government for over half a decade, and I know a little bit about the mindset of politicians, and I know a little bit about the mindset of bureaucrats that inform those politicians. And I got to tell you, when it comes to power, you give an inch and they will take a mile. But even if, even if all of the pandemic restrictions were done for very altruistic reasons, right? Even if it was all altruistic, the fact is that at the end of the day, it has caused an increase in suicides, an increase in poverty, an increase of unemployment, an increase in business collapse, an increase of isolation and loneliness and all of the problems that stem from that, increase in mental illness. It's caused people to put off going to see a doctor or going to get a checkup, and that's led to deaths. So all of these ills have been caused by this lockdown mentality. And I turn around to those people who try and stylize themselves as my side is righteous because we're trying to save our neighbor from this dreadful virus versus these selfish freedom protesters. Well, I just point out one thing. These people who say that they are the righteous, they're actually the ones living in fear of a virus that has a 0.27% infection fatality rate.
Amen, brother.
So convenient for these people who say that, oh, we need to just protect everyone. You know what? You're also protecting yourself, and that's selfish. You're protecting yourself and putting yourself ahead of all of those problems that are falling mainly on the most marginalized and poor people in our society. And so all I got to say is to those people, whether they're Christians or not, who think that they are on the side of the righteous with lockdowns in this argument versus us selfish freedom fighters, well, you got another thing coming. And there's a little chapter in Matthew about, removing the log from your own eye before you complain about the speck in someone's eye.
Absolutely agree. I'm actually quite sick of Christians at the moment. I don't like calling out my own, but I do it. I will call out my own anytime. I even see you calling out your own sometimes and the things that you don't like in your own party. I think that makes one more valid to do that because it shows that you're willing to sort of, punch right, punch left, punch up, punch down.
But it's not, this is actually, I think more and more Christians, dear, are actually out there supporting what I've just articulated there.
Oh, no, I would agree.
The Ezekiel declaration, I don't know if you've seen it. So,
yes, I did see that. That made me so happy.
Yeah, it's now got probably...
Mike Latham is an atheist and he supports it. Sorry, keep going.
Well, it's probably pushing up to, it was well up over 2,000 as of last night. It's probably pushing now up to 3,000. I haven't had a look today, but what it is this declaration against lockdowns, but more so against the division that's going to be caused by vaccine passports or vaccine discrimination. And it's calling for that not to be a feature of our society. And it's the churches, it's Christian pastors that are out there pushing for this. So good on them.
Yes.
And they're citing the Bible and they're citing great theologians of the past and putting forward a very strong argument as to why there should not be this division in our society. And to get away from the theological and religious aspect of it, there shouldn't be, because you know what? The vaccines are proving to be not as effective as what people thought they were.
Absolutely.
And you can still transmit. So what is the
spreading?
point?
They're spreading.
So the experts say that the vaccines are providing some level of protection for an individual, right? It's not George Christensen saying, it's what the experts say. But they're also now saying that the efficacy in terms of the transmission is greatly less than what people actually thought. So, and the stats are bearing that out. So you can transmit if you have the vaccine. You can transmit if you don't have the vaccine. And therefore the question is, well, what is the purpose of a vaccine passport?
Exactly what I've been wondering. What is the purpose of the vaccine if you still have to mask up? And, so you'll all get your rights back. And you know how nice the New South Wales government was with us recently? We're allowed to go out with 5 friends within our 5-kilometer radius. Thank you, Gladys. That's so nice of you. Like, are people stupid? Like, sometimes I wake up so depleted with the Australian people. Have you seen the French? They are sitting outside the cafes and they are nonstop. Australians do not have that stamina. Australians do not have that energy. We would have our country back in 2 to 3 weeks if we were all going in groups of, say, 40, 20 to Woolies, without a mask. If we were just doing these things and pretending everything was normal, and we did it in groups, that'd be one way we could fight back. But no one's doing anything, and the people who are doing something, Monica,
they're getting arrested.
Yes, and Anthony also getting arrested. Who you're gonna like? These people are actually doing something.
Yeah, well, the French have a very different history to us, and this is a bit of a I think there's a reason for what we're seeing going on in our country. France went through a revolution, right? They
killed two kings.
Yeah, they lopped the heads for liberty and fraternity. They lopped the heads off the people they thought were their oppressors. So, that's one thing that France knows how to have a revolution.
They do. You need to take some tips.
The second thing is that they also know what oppression feels like, because they had the Germans in there, the Nazis, controlling every aspect of their life, and they know what it's like to live under dictatorial laws and also put up a resistance.
Yeah,
Australia hasn't really had much in its collective history of that. But, I mean, obviously, people today in France that probably didn't go through any of that, but the cultural memory of it lingers on, of all of it.
I would say so.
Now the cultural memory in Australia is of what struggle, what great battle, what great.
She'll be right.
We had wars overseas, and we talk about the Anzac Spirit, and it is a thing. But I got to tell you, it's a thing of our military. It's actually not a thing of our people. And what I've seen now is that when our back's against the wall, rather than, I'm going to be crass here, but when our back's against the wall, rather than rear up and fight, as the sort of mythology goes around Australians, what we've done is turned around and bent over. That's what we've done.
That's not crass. I've heard a lot worse in my life.
But it's very, very sad. We haven't had to fight and overthrow an oppressor. We haven't had to fight a civil war or have a revolution against oppressors within our own mix. And the closest we've come to it is the Eureka Stockade, right? And that was quashed in a day. And interestingly, I invoked that when I called for the full reopening and loosening of all restrictions. And I've got a petition up which people can go to. I'll give that a plug, georgechristensen.com.au/freedom.
I'll add it to the description box below.
Great. And they can sign what I call the Eureka Declaration, because it's deliberately invoking the Eureka Spirit. And I was attacked in Parliament for doing that by the member for Ballarat, who's obviously got, the town where it happened in her electorate. But I thought, oh well, there you go. She's trying to say I'm doing something wrong by invoking the Eureka legend. She said the words were that member for Dawson and those of his ilk. I'm still working out what that means. Those of his ilk who invoke Eureka. But interestingly, I had a call the very next day from the great-grandson of someone in the Eureka Stockade. I won't name names, but it was a very, very important player.
Nice.
And if it wasn't for that player, I got to say we wouldn't have seen the positive outcomes that eventually came from the Eureka Stockade. But he said to me, "You're completely right, that what we need now is that same spirit that we had in Eureka." It was against people that were oppressing us, that were controlling us, that were restricting our liberties. And I don't mean to say, not at all, that we go and build a stockade and take up arms. No violence whatsoever. But politically, we need to get motivated. Politically, we need to start doing things. I said some time ago, I think civil disobedience is valid. It's valid, particularly valid when you're talking about freedom. And that's why I've got no qualms in saying I supported those protesters out on the streets. Police shouldn't have reacted as they should. They shouldn't have been firing projectiles at these people. And which brings me to one other thing. Sorry, dear, to keep on running on, but
go ahead. You're my guest. Speak.
Well, I fear at the end of all this, what's going to happen to the connection between the police and the public. Now, in
Absolutely.
Australia, there has always been a great deal of respect for our police, a great deal of support for our police. But right now, the police are not serving us.
No.
Seems that they are serving the political masters against us. And, they might be cheered on by maybe the majority in the community, but there is going to be a significant proportion of the community that is going to be very, very distrustful of the police force after this. And I think the police commissioners should remember this. And so when you're sitting there with the premier or the police commissioner and they say, we want you to do X, Y, or Z, the answer should be no. Because you know what? It's going to leave a bad taste in the public's mouth for police officers. I had a former police officer say this to me just the other day, and they said, when they were in the force, there was a life and death situation. They could have been killed, and it was a member of the public that actually saved them. Said, I worry about all of this today because I worry if there's someone in a few years' time that's in that same situation, is the member of the public going to be someone who distrusts police that much that they just turn a blind eye and walk away and let it happen?
Yeah.
That for a former police officer to be saying that they foresee such a breakdown as that in the relationship between the public and the police is dangerous. And it's gotten worse today with the arrest of Monica Smith. Now, some of your people who are listening may know Monica. They may know
They've
about
been
her.
commenting about it, yeah.
So she runs this outfit called
Reignite Australia.
I don't know too much about them. What I do know is what I found out, just from here and there. I did an interview with them. They got their own sort of, social media stuff. It's a political organisation against these lockdowns, basically. But they are now morphing into a political party. My understanding is that they have a registration before the Australian Commission. Well, good until Monica Smith gets arrested today, and her bail conditions that were set, which I have seen, actually says that Reignite Democracy Australia is to be just obliterated, deregistered.
Off. That's blackmail.
But think about it. It's worse than blackmail. It's a fledgling political party. It's got a registration application before the Electoral Commission. The police and the courts are telling someone in our country, our democracy, to shut down this fledgling political party. Shut down.
That's because they're scared shitless.
Shut down all of its tools of communication. Shut down its YouTube, Facebook channel, all the rest of it. And worse than that, there's this weird sort of condition which says, and I'm not going to say it, I can't recall it verbatim, but the thing is that Monica, has got to take down anything that incites opposition to the Chief Health Officer's orders, and has got to take down, is not allowed to post anything or distribute anything or publish anything that incites opposition. Not saying incites a breach, that's a different legal term. Incite opposition, which basically means she is not allowed to politically to express her political views on lockdowns. She is not allowed to say, I think that what Daniel Andrews' regime is doing is wrong. She's not allowed to say, I think Brett Sutton shouldn't be keeping us in lockdown or shouldn't be advising of that. She's not allowed to say any of that because she's not allowed to express or incite opposition.
Are we in North Korea? Are we in Afghanistan?
Well, and you would have thought, being a former journalist, I would have thought that would be major news. A woman is now locked up in a Victorian jail cell because she refused a bail condition that was going to shut down a fledgling political party and refused bail conditions that said she wasn't allowed to express her opposition to a policy of a state government.
She's amazing.
Ringing alarm bells. We're losing our democracy.
People are stupid. I hate to. I hate saying that. I hate saying that, but sometimes I feel that way. I don't always say that. I'm just saying it today because I'm a bit annoyed.
I've been known to be an anti-greenie, right? An anti-greenie. But would I ever support the police or the courts trying to shut down the Greens political party? Not on your life. Not on your life. And would I stop them from going out and peacefully protesting? I'm not talking about invading someone else's property, but peacefully protesting in a public area. Would I stop them from posting their stuff that they put up online? No, I wouldn't. But it seems to not cut both ways. The left seem to be really, really happy about the fact that the book is being thrown at people who are standing up for freedom.
Well, they can keep being happy about that. The left is stupid because eventually it'll be them as well. So they can continue down this downward spiral of stupidity.
I don't know about that so much. I think that unfortunately, what's happening is that our country is going through a bit of a metamorphosis, and
it is.
It's going from a liberal democracy to a mob woke democracy, the woke and the wokesters and the mobsters are the same people. So I don't know how ultimately we get out of it. Not immediately, anyway. I mean, the lockdowns may come to an end, may being the operative word. I don't know when, because the Premier in Queensland today just said that she wasn't going to do anything when we hit 70 or 80%. And there was some crazy statement of not until all the children are vaccinated will we open up. Well, the news flash is
I don't want my niece and nephew being jabbed with a poison that will make them sterile.
But children, look, you can believe that. You can believe whatever you want about the vaccine. It's your choice whether you want to take it or
Absolutely.
not. You go and inform yourself, and then you work out whether you want to take the vaccine, whether you not want to take it. But to say that you're not going to open up society again until all the children are vaccinated, I mean,
she's drunk on power.
Why? The children, you know what the odds of a child dying of COVID-19 are? They are so small that it's not worth talking about. There is a greater chance of getting killed as a pedestrian on the road, a greater chance of getting killed as a pedestrian walking across the road. And yet, I mean, come on, premiers, give us back our freedom. Like, enough is enough with this. The goalposts just forever keep on shifting, and I worry we're going to be stuck in this for another bloody year.
Yeah, and it might not even be C-19 related, right? It might even be, they might even say we have to lock down now because, there's a climate crisis. Well, and yeah.
That stuff's been raised already. There are activists out there that have already said, well, we know now what to do to fix the environment. Perhaps we're going to have climate lockdowns where we stop people from driving and we do this and we do that. Like, I'm sorry, but that just ain't happening. I, for one, and I know there's many other people that will say, you know what, if you're going to make society a jail cell, you may as well just put me in a real one, because at least I don't have to pay for it then. At least I'll get 3 meals a day for free, and I'll get the hour exercise in a nice yard, I hope.
There's a way to go to prison. You could, like kidnap someone or do something.
Who are you going to kidnap?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll stop talking before I incriminate myself.
And so that's this sort of mentality will keep on getting pushed, because there's people already that have talked about the climate emergency is going to require these sort of lockdowns. I won't be abiding by that.
But you're abiding right now. Why abide by the COVID rules? You're still in Canberra, right?
I'm in Canberra, but I've got a level of freedom here. And actually, you know what? I'm not doing anything that I normally don't do.
Okay, cool.
My life in Canberra involves going to my hotel room, going to pick up groceries, going back to my hotel room, going to Parliament House and coming back. So at the moment, it's not inconveniencing me. I would be going out of my mind, though, if I was in Sydney or Melbourne and it was home.
Melbourne is my home. I'm from Melbourne, but I am in New South Wales, and I've been living here for the last 2 years. My God.
I've said this before, I'll say it again. I would be in jail right now if I lived in Melbourne. I really would be in jail right now.
That's completely a fair statement, very much so. So what can audience, I know a lot of you have questions, and there's been a lot of questions. Normally I do the questions the last 20 minutes, but I feel like people are like chomping at the bit to ask questions.
This is a good question.
Yes, yes, go ahead, answer it.
So you just got to be really, really careful about what you say. I mean, you know, Monica has been done for incitement, and I think that she was obviously a big target, right? And so other people that are saying stuff probably that might have been similar to Monica may not be targeted, but you just got to be careful. If the law says don't promote a protest, don't promote the protest. You know, there's things that you can say without saying, hey, everyone come along to this protest.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know, so that's you, and you can still criticize, right? You can still criticize. Monica can't because of the bail conditions, but we're not all living under these bail conditions. Well, Monica didn't accept those bail. By the way, Monica didn't accept those bail conditions, so she's still in jail.
She's still in jail. Well, because she's smart, like, yeah. But
we can criticize, and we can tell our MPs, and we can say, if you ain't standing up, if you're not opposing this with all your might, then don't expect me to vote for you next time round, buddy. You know, that's what we need to be saying, and then finding those politicians that are actually doing what we want to do and getting behind them at the next election and making sure that they're not lost, because you're seeing right now who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, and who are the cowards. That's what you're seeing right now across this country.
This is very true. There's a girl named Hannah. I don't know if you know who she is, but Hannah here is a winter wanderer on YouTube. And her question is, what's the most frustrating thing you're facing when you're in chambers with other politicians? Because you would be one voice in that everyone else is a robot except for you. So like, what is it like?
They're not all robots.
Okay.
But look, no, the most frustrating thing is the same thing that everyone else is facing. It's like I can see, you know, this problem, and I can see it, you know, clear as a bell, that we are losing freedoms in this country.
Yes,
we are
freedoms that are God-given.
Destroying society, and we are destroying the economy, and you know, it really, really isn't worth it. It isn't worth it. People went with this mentality that there was going to be COVID zero in this country and that we could maintain that forever. You know, to think if a politician stood up before all of this and said, this year I'm going to make it my #1 priority to eliminate the flu in Australia, they would have been laughed. They would have been laughed at. They would have been laughed off the stage. But yet somehow people think that politicians and bureaucrats can stop this other influenza-like virus. You know, why is that? Why have people sort of developed this mindset? So what's the greatest frustration? It's the fact that just like throughout the Australian populace, the fear has been pumped into people. And when I try and say something, it's considered extremist or crazy, or people will die, people will die. You know what? That's life. People do die. It's a fact of life. We can't actually stop it, you know, just like we can't stop a virus. And we are, as so many people are saying now, like the Prime Minister, going to have to live with COVID, not in constant fear of it. I said that 3 weeks ago, and I had a motion of condemnation moved against me that was supported by both sides of politics. And now the Prime Minister, the Treasurer, and so many others are saying it. There's even Labor MPs that are saying it. So they realise that the public mindset is shifting, but it hasn't shifted that much, I'm going to say. I saw the polls out today saying, yes, we want life to get back to normal, but only for us vaccinated people. The unvaccinated can remain behind.
It's a status thing now. It's like, oh, I've done the right thing, so you don't. Yeah, even the public is stupid enough to fall for the power games.
Well, this
on some level.
This sort of pitting of vaccinated versus unvaccinated, and this idea that we're going to have some sort of medical or vaccination apartheid in our country, I think is more dangerous than the lockdowns themselves. So anyway, to get back to the answer, what's my frustration? The frustration that other people don't see my point of view and your point of view.
Indeed.
I mean, it's all about fear. I understand it's all about fear.
Harrison asked George about his opinion on the establishment of new states, especially North Queensland state. Yeah, well, Queensland is huge. And Western Australia could be cut in 3 if you really wanted to.
I still support the, in principle, introduction of a North Queensland state. But I've got to tell you, there's almost one thing that I wish at the moment is that we'd abolish all the states. At least we wouldn't have some of the well, yeah, maybe we wouldn't have some of the craziness. Perhaps we still would. But I do, in principle, support the creation of a North Queensland state, principally because I think that the local decisions should be made by more local people, and more closer you get to the people, the better the government. That should be the reality in theory. I think that that what we've seen, though, from some of the states leaves a lot to be desired. But then again, they're probably all far too big and far too removed from average people anyway. I mean, the fact that you've got politicians now that come across constituents that complain to them and then want to take that to the police, well, that's crazy.
Absolutely. WPRN, I don't quite agree with him here, but he's saying, hey, how about those Aussie truckers, huh? Well done, boys. Looking forward for round 2. They left after an hour. The effort was pitiful. I don't think they did anything worth praising. But go ahead. Do you have a response to that? Do you think the truckers did anything? Because they literally left after 1 hour.
Yeah, look, I've got mixed feelings out of all of this. What I will say is that if you're going to have a protest and it's going to be civil,
follow through.
Well, yeah, but probably with something akin to that. The question is, given how many people it ticks off, would you do it in the first place? I don't know. I can understand why someone feels that frustrated that they got to do it. And I don't denigrate. Good on them for going and making their voice heard and letting people know that they're ticked off. Certainly got a bit of publicity over that.
Little bit. Yeah.
But I think that the protests that have happened in the city have been much more pertinent because of the amount of people that are there. Unfortunately, that last one, they all have been. The media carry on about how violent it is and all the rest of it. I sat there and watched the Melbourne protests live through RV Yemeni and the Real Rockshan, who are streaming it live. I think it was actually. And I watched and I saw how peaceful it was until the police line was there.
Oh, yeah.
And then within a very short period of time, all hell broke loose. So before it was people chanting, people laughing, telling jokes, marching down the street, and then next thing, it went volatile. So you can draw your own conclusions from that.
Don't worry, I've seen it myself. I've been to enough rallies in my life to know that when the coppers show up to something, they tend to heighten people's emotions a little bit. What's this one say? George, can you get me Senator Bill Heffernan's report under an order to produce the McLennan Royal Commission, please? Have you frozen? He's frozen.
I'm sorry. Have I
frozen? Or am I
frozen? Have I
Hello?
frozen? I
Hello?
can still see you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had a call. I'm doing this on my phone, and I just had a call come through, so I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb. So anyway, Heffernan. Look, I knew Bill Heffernan, and I haven't spoken to Bill in a long time, but that report is.
I'll just take it off the screen in case this gets me off YouTube. Okay, go ahead. Keep answering.
I don't know if this is the McLennan Royal Commission, the Wood Royal Commission, I thought it was. But anyway, so a lot of people talk about it online. Apparently, there was a list of names of people that were accused of certain sex-related crimes. Now, this is probably going to make me unpopular with some people, but
welcome to my world.
Just because there's a list with people's names on it who have been accused and there is no proof does not mean that those people are ipso facto guilty of what they are accused of.
I agree with that statement.
And let me just say, there's been certain people in recent times who have been said to have been guilty, who've actually been found to be guilty by lower courts, and not only a more thoughtful court, a court with much more wisdom and jurisprudence has found them to actually not be guilty and the evidence not to stack up. And most people knew that that would be the end outcome. So please, just because there's a list out there with names on it, there's a reason that's probably not public. And the reason is because people have been hyped up about it, think that it's like because their name's on the list, they've done it. And might take matters into their own hands. Well, let me just put it back. What if your name was on the list? What if someone's watching name was on that list? Would they like that list to be made public?
I love this because I don't like piling on. I don't like people being victims of pile-ons, and you're absolutely right.
If someone's committed a crime like that, run them through the system, do a court case. If they're found guilty, then sling them in jail for the rest of their lives, or string them up. One of the two. I don't care. But until you are found guilty in a court of law in this country, at least up until now, you should be considered innocent.
Yes, Jesse Bell. This man is my moderator. He also lives up like somewhere near Townsville, 2 hours out of Townsville. He's a good guy. So, do you honestly think there is a peaceful political solution to this problem, or the moral, social, and economic decay incipient here? History shows different.
Well, there's got to be a peaceful political solution to it, because there's only.
Seems doubtful.
There's only two outcomes. It's only a peaceful political solution. My old dad said that the pendulum always swung, that it swings one way and it goes so far, then it swings the other way. And, hopefully that pendulum's going to swing at some point. That doesn't happen naturally. That happens because people stand up. Because there's only two outcomes: peaceful change, or we're gone. We're gone. There's two outcomes here: that this country can be changed for the better, or the country is going to go to hell in a handbasket. One of the two.
Yeah, fair enough. What happens to those who medically cannot get the
the jab, I think is what they've said.
Okay. What if you have an allergy to one of the ingredients? Or what if you have a moral outrage to the fact that they're using aborted baby fetal tissues?
There's medical exemptions, conscientious exemptions. In fact, there's just exemptions.
Are there?
Because it's not mandatory. Now, it's not mandatory. But
they're saying it is.
It's not mandatory. The vaccine is not mandatory in this country.
Good.
And I'll tell you but so I've got it in writing from the Prime Minister, who said that there is no mandating of this vaccine. However, from some of our state governments and from private corporations, what has slipped in is coercion to take it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's so true.
And so they're passing laws saying that you can't, if you don't get it, you can't get certain jobs. And I'm going to say I don't think that those things are going to stack up, because I looked today and it was saying if you live in one local government area in New South Wales and want to travel to another local government area for essential work purposes, or authorised work purposes, I think they call it, you need to have one shot of this inoculation.
No, thank you.
Well, taking their own data or their own view on what one shot of the inoculation would do for you, one shot will do nothing for you. So therefore, is that condition, which is done under public health orders, is that condition commensurate to the problem at hand? And I'm going to say more lawyers need to step up, and that may be easy for me to say as a non-lawyer, but I reckon that there could be a very easy argument run there that all of these public health orders that require this sort of stuff, they have to be addressing the problem. And if one shot of that vaccine does absolutely bugger all, and that's what we're told it pretty much does, then really it's not solving anything. So why do you require it?
Indeed.
You shouldn't require it at all.
No, that's fine. I'm just going down to see if there's any other.
Those who can't get the vaccine for medical reasons don't have to get it. But the problem is going to be whether or not private corporations and state governments who are coercing people, if you want to do a certain thing, if you want to get a certain job, if you want to go to a certain place, you need to have it. The question's really going to be what happens to people who have this inability to get it because of medical conditions. I don't know the answer. That's something to go and hit up that company about, or hit up the state government about. And no, I can answer that quick question. I was asked and I said no.
Okay. Why? Oh, is that personal? Don't answer that.
Yeah, I was elected as a member of the Liberal National Party. I was elected with the help of Liberal National Party rank and file members. I was elected by people with the Liberal National Party badge on. I had Liberal National Party colleagues there helping me get elected, and so to leave and go to another team in the middle of a parliamentary term, they call those people rats. And I'm not saying that of Craig Kelly, but that's what they do call those people. And I just don't want to do it. I have loyalty to my voters who elected me with that imprimatur, with that under that seal. I have loyalty to the local LNP members who backed me, and loyalty to my colleagues who helped me. And I can still speak up. I am speaking up within the Liberal National Party.
That's good. Shouldn't the Attorney General be enforcing the Constitution upon the states through the High Court? Would this be possible in Monica's case or in regards to lockdowns?
Well, look, I think the Attorney General did say something today about, and it goes back to my argument about, is the public health condition that you're imposing commensurate to fixing the problem? And she said words to the effect today that if state governments are going to continue with border closures post reaching a certain vaccination rate, that might not be tenable, and the government may have to act then, the federal government. So there are our constitution's fairly limited, right, in the rights that it provides. There's only certain rights, and there's other rights in it that are implied. One of the rights comes, I think, from Section 92, which is about free movement, or free carriage and commerce between states, and that's taken to read as you shouldn't be impeded from going from one state to the next or doing business from one state to the next. And so the question about border closures, well, that could be addressed through a High Court challenge. But the question that the High Court is going to have to ask is the public health issue such that precedes or is more dominant consideration than the movement, because the movement's not being completely restricted, right? You can still come to Queensland, you just have to wait. So it's not as clear cut as just, oh, they're breaking the Constitution. The High Court will interpret it. As for Monica Smith, that may come because there is an implied constitutional right to political communication, an implied
Absolutely.
constitutional freedom to communication, and the
and
High
political
Court
assembly.
The High Court has ruled on this 3 times in the past, and always ruled in favour of the person who was having their political communication trampled upon. So the fact that we've got bail conditions that have been set, that's caused someone to remain in jail, quite frankly, that have been set that say a fledgling political party needs to be shut down, or a political organisation needs to be shut down, all their modes of communication need to be shut down, and the political campaigner themselves, Monica Smith, can't actually incite opposition to a government policy. Really? How does that sit in accord with our implied freedom of political communication? So there is a case to be heard there. I don't know whether the federal government will bring it on, though, or whether Monica's lawyers might push that angle.
I reckon she has a good representation, I would imagine. I hope so.
Yeah. Well, that's just the bail conditions. What they've arrested her on is incitement and also breach of CHO orders. But I think that this talk around incitement, I mean, it's really loose. I mean, what's incitement to them is political communication to me. And I saw some of the words that they claimed, like, this might be the biggest protest ever this weekend, because what else do people have to do on a Sunday? I mean, is that inciting people to go and breach court orders, or is that just making
definitely not, in my opinion,
around a political protest?
Mm-hmm.
But look, let me just say that the law itself is wrong, though, to suggest that you can't have an outdoor public protest. Again, the order has to be commensurate to the problem. And I could show you many, many statements, including from Daniel Andrews himself, where they say that it's negligible, the risk of spreading COVID-19 outside.
It doesn't even matter what he says. He let the Black Lives Matter people get together, which
that's like, also goes to the issue and the hypocrisy behind it all.
Exactly right. Twice now you've intimated you want no state governments. How will things improve with a centralised government ruling an entire continent from Canberra?
Well, I got to say I was sort of joking there, Jesse, just because there's bad state governments at the moment. I wouldn't support getting rid of states. I'd support getting rid of certain state governments, though. As I said, I do support the establishment of a North Queensland state. In principle, will I ever live to see it? Well, I mean, who knows? But I doubt it, given that they don't want to. They want to take more power and have that. I don't think they're going to cede any to certain regions of their states. So no, I was joking. I dislike the state governments. I want to keep the states. And but one thing I got to say is that I don't want to ever see the situation again in my lifetime of a country that's basically, we're one nation. We are one country, Australia, one nation. But what we've become over the course of this pandemic is a series of small countries. And to get back into my state, I need the equivalent of a visa. I mean, like the process that I go through and the documents that I have to show, the only equivalence to that is applying for a visa and having to show your passport.
Yeah.
This is nuts. We're not a series of different nations. We're one nation.
Under God. Do you think the West and Western societies, at the moment Australia is the main focus, it seems, but like Canada, America, England, New Zealand, South Africa, all of these are countries that spoke English that were once ruled by the West, the Western world. Do you think it's lost its way? Do you think 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, Australians would have fought back better than what we're seeing today? Or do you think Australians are, do you think we've lost our identity?
Look, I don't know the answer to that latter part, but I obviously there has been a decline in the West for some time, and it's a cultural malaise. We simply don't believe in the vision of the West anymore. We don't believe to believe in a nation means belief in an idea, and the idea has to be an idea that's commonly held. And quite frankly, in most Western nations these days, I don't know what the idea is that's commonly held apart from, well, we support our country. Well, what does that mean? What does your country stand for? What is it all about? So there's one big lesson that actually can be taken from the just absolute shambles in Afghanistan that Sleepy Joe presided over. And the lesson is, here was a fully functioning army that had been trained, that had been given a whole heap of equipment. It was a functioning democracy, I guess you could say. They had the apparatus of government. They had all the levers at their disposal, and they folded like a cheap table within a very, very short time. Why did they fold? Why did the president of this country flee? Why did people just drop their weapons or run from their posts and give up without really much fighting? And I think the answer, not just my take on it, it's what many other people are saying, that there was no commonality that held the rest of those Afghanis together. There was no central value, central vision that they had. Why did they not fight? Because there's nothing worth fighting for. They didn't give a damn about it. But guess who did? The Taliban. They know what they're fighting for. They're fighting for Islam. They're fighting for Sharia. And so
it has purpose.
And there is purpose there, exactly. And when those who are led by a mission meet those who are aimless, well, even with all of the might and the training that they had, the aimless just decided, forget it, I ain't dying for this. And there's a lesson there for the West, a really big lesson there. If it comes to it and there's another war, I don't know where that's gonna take us. We've sort of will we hold together, or will there be people that'll just be like, well, what's the point anyway?
For sure. WPRN Pirate Radio Podcast. It's the same thing media reports on. Exact type statements. The government needs to be sued and held to account. Question: who was harmed? Who was harmed? Yeah.
Well, I don't get that statement. I don't
understand it either. I just thought because I just wanted to make sure that I asked all the questions that people put forth. One person wants to know if you've seen, if you watched the 60 Minutes about. Hang on, here it is. There it is. Investigation into NSN.
I don't watch fake news.
Yeah, that's.
I don't even know what the investigation was, because I don't watch.
60 Minutes.
I don't watch Channel 9. I don't watch 7. I don't watch ABC.
I don't either.
And sometimes I might watch, much to my disappointment, a little bit of The Project or something like that. only online, but I switch off. I switch off because
you watch my show though, right? No, just kidding. Just being silly.
Are you on Channel 10? Are you?
No. On YouTube.
So I get a lot more of my information from online sources than I do from. So I can't give you an opinion on 60 Minutes because I don't watch 60 Minutes.
No, that's fine. That's a great answer. I don't really watch them either. I'll watch if I'm interested in a story on a celebrity that I like, but I don't watch them for real hard-hitting investigations anymore.
So there's a solution to fake news. Turn it off. The only solution to the only time that doesn't work is with the ABC, because it doesn't matter whether we have it on or off, they still get our money, and they shouldn't. So the solution to fake news is turn it off. And there is now a diversity of media in this country, and you can access it over the internet. And I just say access those diverse sources. Rebel News is one that's popping up from time to time that's very interesting. More power to them. Rebel News,
Cauldron Pool, Reignite Australia Democracy. Yeah, I like Cauldron Pool. The Good Source, that's right. I forgot about you. Are you still working for them?
Well, I was working for them, just doing some articles from time to time and podcasts. Yeah.
You never podcasted me, remember? You said you would, and you never did. You lied.
Because the podcast ended, and I haven't gotten back to it yet. So perhaps in the future.
I'm just being silly.
But here we are podcasting now, so that's good.
So it's all good. Well, it's been the full hour. Are there any? Okay, this is one last question, guys, because he has to eat, the poor fella, and he has. Oops, hang on. Yeah, but Baya Race asks, with the slow decay of the Anglosphere and the shameful loss in Afghanistan, this is the last question. Are those in charge starting to realize that ideology is no substitute for faith, and a democracy must have morality? Good question. Very philosophical.
That question's answered itself.
Kind of has.
Are people in charge starting to realize that? Well, no, I don't think that they are starting to realize that. I think that it's going to take something existential and not a virus with a 0.27% infection fatality rate. That's not existential. It'll probably take something existential to realize that the only way that society can be kept intact is when it is held together. And the thing that held together the West for so long was our faith, our Christian culture.
Yeah.
And we've eroded it. We've kicked off those moorings. And for the next question, will it ever be privatized? No, I don't think it'll ever be privatized. I mean, which is, I think that my personal belief is that there's some elements of the ABC that need to be kept intact. Those that aren't served, those things that aren't served by the commercial sector, such as local news radio, right? There's a dearth of that, particularly in the regions. But look, I don't think it'll ever be privatised because people are in fear of it, and they shouldn't be. And what I think of Friendly Geordies, to say that I don't know much about it would be an understatement, but to say that I am concerned about any erosion of free speech is also an understatement. So I support, even though Friendly Geordies is a left-wing hack, so I'm told. I don't watch Friendly Geordie stuff, so I don't know.
Neither. I don't know anything about them.
I support the right of free speech of left-wing hacks as well as right-wing ones.
Completely fair and consistent. Well, that's my last question. I don't think there are other people who are asking other questions, and unless you're willing to stay on for longer, I do want you to eat and relax and unwind from a heavy day in Parliament.
Unfortunately, I do have to go right now.
Yeah, all good. No, that's fine.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you very much for the opportunity, dear.
No, thank you for finally answering my call. You ignored my call 3 times. I felt out in the cold. No, I'm just kidding. I understand. You're a busy fellow. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for answering everyone's questions. Thank you for answering mine, and thank you for doing what you're doing and being a voice in there representing us and not being drunk off the power that you get being in the position that you're in. You're actually genuinely doing something noble. You are a politician, and you are exactly what the name is supposed to be, and I commend you for that, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Okay, bye. I'm going to end the broadcast now.